Alrighty, everyone. Just wanted to go ahead and do a quick live stream here. If you guys are in the live stream, leave a comment in the chat. We'll get diving into it in just a second. Obviously, some people are concerned about the price action market, so that's what we'll be talking about. For those of you just getting in, just want to let you all know I apologize. I haven't been as active over the past few days. I've been working a lot on the OTC video. It's generally turned in from an OTC video to a big institutional, the big institutional money that's coming into the crypto space. Doesn't really match with the price action we're seeing now, but I think you guys will find that video really interesting. It's the second episode of the Crypto Uncovered series, so we'll have that out soon. And along with that as well, I just wrapped up a AMA with the Unibright team. So if you guys are interested in the project, definitely go check out their channel. We did about an hour and a half AMA this morning on that. Really exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. Anyways, how you guys doing? Jersey Shore, nice to have you in here. And I never watched the show, but I think my dad actually grew up near the Jersey Shore, not too far away from Jersey Shore. He grew up in New Jersey. Hello, everyone. Nice to have you in here. It's a little bit early. I know it's not. It probably says late night live stream, doesn't it? I usually go back and fix that later, but anyways, thought I might as well go ahead and do a live stream for you guys. Apologize, it's a little bit spontaneous, didn't really send out an alert for it, but I thought I would spend some time talking about the market right now. Not really trying to bring rationale into it because there really isn't much rationale with this price action, and again, markets don't have to be rational all the time. So I want to spend some time to talk on a technical sense why this probably went through. As you can see, we've had some key levels here we've been looking at here over the past few hours. The past few days and weeks, and we were doing very, very nice. We had a descending 200-hour. We held above the lows for quite some time, and with that, got a pop up above the 200-hour. Had a chance to possibly find support when you really need the 200-hour to start reversing, and the price obviously to lead in that reversal. That's what's gonna give us the potential higher. But sadly, over the past few hours, we got an initial sell-off down back to these lows, and with a double bottom here, a breakdown, a rollback over a dead cat bounce, we got a rollback down to these lows, and it was not able to hold on the 200-hour. It wouldn't have been that bad if we were able to hold in the 200-hour, but we obviously got a big sell candle coming in. Again, I think we have to be aware here, and this is something I'm going to talk about in my institutional video for Crypto Uncovered. The factor here that you have to keep in mind is that you're going to have a lot of people in this low volume market. I mean, really just take a look at the volume here. We're really not getting much on the hourly. And then from there, we have these big sell candles, which can easily clear through the order book. It's an issue right now that we're struggling with in crypto. And it's one of the few things that, to be fair, the SEC and a lot of regulatory agencies point to, is that prices being easily moved right now. There's not enough liquidity. So in that case, we need to get more active trading. We need more liquidity in this market. And we could very well see this, and I'll talk about my price expectations from here on out in just a second, but that's just a reality here. So we've broken down past the general lows that we saw back over here, and now we're down to around 6,100. About $100 away from the key line here at 6,000. This is the main level of support. If we don't hold this, guys, to be fair, we could very well be expecting 4 or 5K over the next few weeks. That's definitely going to be necessary because if we take it here to the daily, obviously this is what everyone's been watching. We've been hoping to see that this is going to hold 6,000. Now you're going to have a lot of buyers coming around 6,000. It's going to be very hard to break that level unless you have, again, another big sell candle come through. So we'll have to see what happens here. Let me go ahead here. We got some donations that came through. Fercho, Nick, thoughts on EFX? Would love if you can do an AMA with Chris. There's Fercho, I don't really know much about it, but I'll definitely try to take a look through it. I apologize. Don't know much on it. Ronald, what do you expect for Oyster Pearl Shell? Ronald, it's been a protocol I've been keeping up with for quite some time, or at least the project Oyster Pearl, and then they obviously launched Oyster Shell. So I've been keeping over the project. My brother was testing around with it. He actually used the Oyster protocol. Works quite well, and it's quite cheap storage as well for the time being. So really excited about what they're doing. At least it's a real use case, and it's very easy as well to generate income off of it. It's a good income route for people who don't want to pop up advertisements on their website. But at the moment, everyone, price is definitely tossing around right now. You're finally starting to get some buyers. Obviously, they buy low, they sell high. In this case, I mean, this has just been the mantra of the market. It's been anytime you get an opportunity to buy low and sell high, and people just obviously are taking their profits. Some people are. I feel honestly more than anything, guys, to be completely fair with you, I don't mind calling it out because I'm transparent with you guys. I don't have any clear confidence this is the case, but I would assume this is generally what's been happening over and over again, which is that there are a few whales. They've actually found, they've done some research, there's a few whales that have been pushing around Bitcoin's price up and down. These big BART charts that many people have been talking about. And what people do is they trade on margin as well. So they'll go on obviously something like BitMEX or something, a leverage trade, and they'll boost their returns astronomically. You know, you can do 10 times leverage, 15 times leverage, 20 times leverage, and still be in a comfortable ratio when you know that, oh, we're about to prop up the price or drop down the price. That's just how dirty trading can be sometimes, and that's what a lot of the whales in the space are doing. So Steve says, cry more, I'm making paper. That's awesome if he's trading around these markets. See, best of luck to you. Kevin says, Nick, you should check out OXBTC mineable token. Kevin, I've heard about this. I think it's an interesting concept to have a mineable currency on top of Ethereum. But I just don't think it's getting any serious traction. Everyone kept propping it up. I've obviously seen it on Reddit. I think 4chan was joking. I jump in there from time to time just to see what people are talking about. But some people are leaving comments on my videos and in the Discord as well talking about it. I just don't know enough on it. There was some interesting factors about it, the scalability, extra scalability, a few other things as well are definitely. Yusuf, I'm sorry for mispronouncing that, was asking, could you assume this as a shakeout? Yeah, it depends. I mean, when you use all these types of terminology, I try to be very specific with my language. It's a very good business trait to have that, but especially when you're talking about markets and something that's where there's money involved, because people are like, what do you mean by a shakeout, you know? And when I would say, if I were to meet this as the definition of a shakeout, I would definitely say that this is, I would word it as Bitcoin right now is testing its bottom. It's trying to test its support. We've obviously seen in the past that anywhere between 7,000 to 6,000, this is the range where Bitcoin really needs to find strength. And right now we haven't seen it yet. So if we do collapse below 6,000, that's going to read bad news for Bitcoin. At this moment, again, I haven't moved any positions, guys. In fact, this morning I've been hard at work doing a lot of great content. There's a lot of things under the scenes that people, I think, people are so caught up in price. It's the thing you see. And one thing you'll get in my video where I'm talking about institutions in cryptocurrencies is, sorry, I just wanted to double check there. I thought we were, I'm not on my live stream thing. I forgot. I guess I'm just doing the standard stream here. But yeah, actually, I'm going to go ahead and hop on the live stream here. Let's go ahead and on to stream. There we go. Awesome. So now we're on the stream here. Let's go ahead and talk about a few of the things that I'm going to be covering in my video. So when we're talking about institutions getting involved in crypto, a big thing that people need to understand is that there's a lot of components that we will not see when institutions are getting engaged. So you will not see the liquidity that a lot of these institutions are trading due to the fact that they're on OTC exchanges. I'll explain more about that in the video. And along with that as well, futures contracts, you have engagement in the ICO space. That's where a lot of institutions are pouring their money right now because it's the entry points which they can get in. They can't get in these markets right now because, you know, it's kind of like, you know, one person's going to have to dip their toe in the water in a sense to see, you know, if they can swim in a sense, because there's not enough liquidity at the moment. We can take it here to the weekly chart and we can see why price is getting moved around so easily. Look at that. I mean, the trend is very obvious. You had a growth of higher price and higher volume, which is always a good sign to see for a bull market. And you've obviously had a decline of liquidity as we've been dropping down. So it's no surprise in any regard why price is moving like this. The question here, though, is will we get enough buyers, just like we have over here and over here, enough buyers coming in to hold the price at 6,000? It's a very big even level. And, you know, you might see price dip slightly below it. I wouldn't panic if I just saw it go slightly below 6,000. But I think you've got another $100 worth of price action to go down to test that at that even level, just like we had back here. And when price cannot get past that big even because there's just so much bids in the order book and there's so many buyers coming at that level, you'll have a massive short squeeze in this sense where a lot of people were betting it's going to go lower, but then buyers come in swarms just like they did back here in February. They pick up the price, and then when it's a short squeeze, people have to close their positions and they start stacking up on Bitcoin. The orders start flowing in. That's how markets work. So yeah. Biplav, yes, this is technically a descending triangle, which we have to keep in mind is a bearish pattern. The fact of the matter is, though, is we've seen this historically play out in Bitcoin's price. And what we saw is generally that Bitcoin was able to hold support at $400 in the past in this same formation back in its previous bull cycle. And what we saw, so you can see here the support at this level every time. What we saw is actually a hold on support, a slight fake down below 400. And what happens is you get a pop out of that, a continued rejection, and then support at the key level above 400, and then a breakout outside of the descending triangle. I think you're going to see something very similar, and we'll have to tell whether or not we'll have enough fundamental momentum to actually commit to this and then continue higher rather than continuing to sell off. I think you have a very good chance of having a much more long-term uptrend and actually potentially getting new highs towards the end of the year if fundamentals continue to collapse in traditional markets. But at the moment, they're holding up quite well, to be fair, at least on the surface or in the appearance of price. Scott, yes, I've heard of Academic. There's been a lot of shilling around it. I don't mean to play it down as a project. I haven't done my research, but yeah, I think it's been, the price action has been nice, but it's been off of a very thin volume. And yeah, I'm a little worried to speak on it at the moment, so I need to look into it more. But the concept, again, I think from what I saw was relatively sound, but you know, there's so much more to going towards it. Usman, the ETF that I'm looking for, we've obviously had the VanEck proposal. We're going to need probably not only more proposals, but it's going to be a matter of, I think when you start seeing dips in traditional markets, there's going to be more of an urgency for it. But right now, traditional markets are holding quite well. At least they're still holding towards their highs, but that can change very quick. We've been seeing that markets pick up more of a flash crash mentality in the sense of price change. Just want to say thank you guys for joining the live stream and stuff in the middle of the day. We got over 1,000 people. It's very nice. But yeah, at the moment, I got to say on the 5-minute, as much as I would like to see it come down to 6,000, this is looking very nice. We're starting to see a reversal pattern. I just had an engulfing candle here on the 5-minute. Price is coming back up. If you get above 6,150, this could easily start reversing, but at the moment we'll remain patient, and I'll take some questions here. But you can see in the grand scheme of things, guys, it's probably not the area to get really bearish. You're betting that this is going to break through and go down to a lower level like 5,000 or 4,000, which I, again, still don't really see happening unless we continue to have more bad news in the market. But there hasn't been any bad news that's dragged this down. Again, it shows you that in most cases, people use news headlines as a catalyst to push price down. It's nice to have you on here. Crimson, that's awesome. Yeah, they've got an ETF in Toronto. Interesting. Tom, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Georgia, I never stepped into the channel saying I know exactly what's going on, but you know, you can take that negative perspective and act like I'm being pretentious and a know-it-all in this case. I've obviously told people that I was hoping that price would hold more around 7,000, so I've been off in that regard. I admit to my mistakes, but at the moment, what we can interpret is that 6,000 is a very big even, and along with that as well, that on the hourly, whether it is manipulation or not, we have pretty good confidence from people who've done deep research that this is people on BitMEX leverage trading who are pushing these very low volume markets. I mean, you can just look at it on the hourly. You don't need me to tell you that. Look at that. I mean, it's proof. The proof is in the pudding in that sense. But what I was pointing out earlier that I think is a pretty clear indicator is that we are not able to hold on the 200-hour. And this has been a key level of support. Look what happens right when you break down below the 200-hour. You continue collapsing further. And that's exactly what we're getting right here. So I know some things about markets, but I don't know everything about it. Hopefully that clears things up. Not trying to be a know-it-all in that sense, but I definitely have some understanding of these markets. Another thing to note as well, guys, is when you have the 200-day starting to curve here. Last time we saw this with Bitcoin, the last time we really had a breakout with the 200-day, look what happened here with price. If we were able to hold not only the base, but we were able to come back up and test back towards the 200-day. So Badgery asked, do you think Bitcoin will go to 5K this weekend or 7K? See, that's the thing, guys. I hate to be like, oh, it could go up or it could go down. You need to see this hold at 6,000. That's the key determiner. So if you hold at 6,000 over these next few hours and you get a rebound on price, you don't collapse through, I think buyers are going to realize that the odds are probably in their favor, rather, or the traders in that sense would understand that buying is probably in their favor over shorting. But I'm not trying to give anyone advice here. You have to see this hold here, and it is very, very subjective at this point. It's a very high risk play either side, unless you know what's going to happen, unless you're a whale in that sense, or you're the BitMEX crew that's been manipulating price a lot. But I am. Not a problem, man. Glad to do it for you guys. I'd like to talk to you all about this. Shah says he thinks a reversal's at play. Well, it looks like that on the 5-minute chart. Yep, we're definitely getting it right now. But we'll have to see if that can hold. Definitely getting some volume here. Yep, Bender, it's interesting. You pointed out the supposed Korean FUD with BitThumb. The funny thing about it is that it really didn't have much of an effect on price. It was like a small, like 2% drop or something in Bitcoin. And it shows you that, guys, like the headlines out there right now, like for the most part, people use headlines as catalysts for dropping Bitcoin that they own or buying up Bitcoin. The fact of the matter is there's just not any real important news going, either negative news or positive news. We're waiting for the big catalyst, which is an ETF. Daniel, that'll be his Neo security. That's going to be decided by the SEC and by Chinese officials. And yes, the OTC video will be coming out soon. Again, I can't wait till you guys see it. I think there's a lot of things that people don't know about. Narat, that's interesting that you said what are the chances of Bitcoin raising on the 26th of June, the end of the Bitcoin futures. It's important to note that there was I think it was Thomas Lee, I think is his name. He's the leader at Fundstrat, who is always on CNBC. He did mention that there is a correlation. Usually you do have drops before the futures, and I think that might play some role. But I think it's not the only thing that's playing here. It's more the technical side of things in regards to price. Sword Killer, I'm excited about it for Knowles. That's awesome. Yeah, that's always possible, Ken, about whales probably having one more flush here and pushing it below 6,000. They might, but it depends. You have to look at the order books of exchanges. Like we can go, for example, I can probably pull up GDAX. Let's go ahead and do GDAX here real quick. We can see, let's pull up Bitcoin. We can see generally kind of the volume we're dealing with at these big evens. So let's consolidate this on the order book. Yeah, so you're going to have to, generally in a low volume market, this is going to require a few thousand Bitcoin on a market order to clear through this general area to really have a breakdown below that price. That's some pretty decent liquidity, and I think those orders will get more and more filled when price gets lower. You're going to have more people migrating some of these orders from the top here on the order book down to the big even at 6,000. Why? Humans like to buy big evens. And that can provide us some support here in the sense of a trader's perspective. So we'll have to see. I think very well you could see it over the next hour or so. You could see a test around 600, or sorry, excuse me, 6,000. Not 600, that wouldn't be good. But let's see. But the more Bitcoin's price goes lower than what it costs to mine, the more it is very much like traditional commodities in that sense. I think that's a very interesting comparison. And the more it goes lower towards the price of mining, less people start mining, And with that, difficulty goes down. And then from there, the cost to mine goes cheaper as well. So you have this cycle of, supply and demand at play. So I think in that sense, it is very important and key to understand that the lower it goes, only places that it's cheap to mine Bitcoin, you can think like Venezuela. Mining's not really my forte, but you can think of like a very cold climates, low energy cost. I mean, those are obviously the kind of factors you're looking for. And what they'll do is they'll start mining. Price starts to rebound. Again, things work themselves out. You go in cycles. PT said, pack your bags, guys. Data called $600 Bitcoin. That's the thing. You got to be careful. I don't want to mislead anyone in that sense. But yeah, I meant to say 6,000 on that. But Mark, I wouldn't say there's any set number or system you can use to rate the chances of the SEC approving the ETF. The factors that I'm looking for kind of in a set of events. I think once you get more SEC definitions of what is a security, what's not a security. Obviously, Bitcoin has been declared it's not a security, same as Ethereum. They're not securities at the moment, from what we understand from the SEC, from what at least they've stated. And along with that as well, they've opened the door again to ETF proposals. They closed it off back in 2017, shutting out a lot of the proposals from the Winklevoss twins, from Spider, from ProShares, a lot of the big ETF manufacturers. But we've now gotten ourselves in a position where we have the floodgates open again. VanEck has submitted their proposal. It's a very institutional-based ETF. So again, really meeting the needs of what the SEC has stated. They don't want a retail ETF right now. It's too expensive. If VanEck's ETF were to pass, it would let institutions trade it, but it'd be too expensive for an average retail investor to get a hold of one, at least at the current price of Bitcoin. And I think that's going to meet the needs of the SEC, as they want to see it tested first. They want to see if it works. I think some people as well would argue we want the wealthy to get in first and not the retail investor. You can make your case either way, but it does at least match with what the SEC is saying. And then after that, I think you have an official announcement, and that will lead towards a 15-20% day for Bitcoin to the upside if they announce a proposal for an ETF that's going to get approved. It is going to be massive news. That's going to be the catalyst, in my opinion. Vin, I'm glad you mentioned Nano as well. I've not only built a good position in Nano recently, as I've been talking about on the channel, but I love Nano. They just actually launched their mobile wallet. Problem with my phone is I think my iOS is outdated, so I'm going to have to update it eventually. But yeah, no, I want to start using Nano. I want to start actually promoting it out there and stuff, and showing stores that crypto is becoming much more usable as currency. Because for me, guys, it's fun investing and trading, and I like doing that all. But to me, I really want to see people actually using cryptocurrency. It'd be awesome. Kaylin Johnson, could you please tell us what your ratio of BTC to alts is like at times like these? Kaylin, yes, I'm still very heavily diverse in alts at the moment, but I've only started to really become distributed in alts towards these lows below 7,000. That's where I've started to feel like I can start taking risk in the market, that it's oversold at the moment. And again, that's why I'm not panicking at these levels. So hope that helps you out. I don't really have a definite ratio. I'd say predominantly, from what I can remember off the top of my head, generally around 60 to 75% altcoins, and then the rest is Bitcoin, because I usually like to hold a quarter in Bitcoin, as always. Sometimes that can vary. Sometimes it can drop to 20%. Sometimes it can be 50% in a bear market. Subaru said I need more fiat. I've been setting for a high bet for Bitcoin this year, so I believe in December we're going to be well higher than where we are now. That's just my opinion, though. You've got to decide for yourself, do your own research, but you can probably find my different predictions. I talked about, I did a video talking about the direction of where I think Bitcoin's going to go. I got to say, on the 5-minute, guys, it is looking very nice here. It looks like we got generally an engulfing candle here, matching price action on the buy side comparative to the sell side, as we can see right here. And we're getting a nice build-up pattern. with a decent amount of volume. Definitely more than what we've been seeing on the 5-minute over here. So. Scody, I apologize. I know I have late night talk. It's not late night. It's morning time for me here, but I haven't changed the title for it. Cryptos are so you nulls deep. I love that it's become a meme. Ash, I can tell you most people, just like in the futures contracts, I mean, maybe they've had a convenient time over these past few months, but I don't think the banksters will be shorting the Bitcoin ETFs. If anything, people are going to use it as a definite hedge, because whether or not that they have a vested interest against Bitcoin, they are putting money on the front lines. If they go about shorting it and then you have massive institutional buy-side action due to a market correction in traditional markets and liquidity exiting those markets, moving into a Bitcoin ETF or into crypto ETFs or blockchain ETFs, that's not a bet you want to play against. It would be kind of like shorting, Bitcoin anytime between early to mid 2017. Not a smart play. When you have lots of room to move, I think that's the whole point that we need to keep in mind. So I think the play at this point, I mean, even though Bitcoin might still drop down a little bit more, we've got so much more room for upside at this point from at least what I can analyze. So experiment. I didn't invest in Hashgraph. I got to go to the event though, and man, it was a really, really cool experience to see the event in New York City. Keith says, you give a highly educated opinion. No reason to apologize. Cheer up, soldier. We will take Hamburger Hill again tomorrow. Keith, thank you very much. I appreciate it. That's the thing, guys. You can't get too emotional about it. You don't see me, like, holding back tears or anything. Like, I'm just, I enjoy it and stuff. I've definitely still done well on crypto for myself, and still having fun trading these markets, working with some projects and everything, doing really fundamental things for the space, trying to build real use case. There's a lot of cool things coming. I think, it's definitely something I'm not really worried about. Dragon, yeah, I would say that when you have an engulfing candle, it's a sign of being oversold and a sign of bottoming, but it's not guaranteed. Some smash that. It's late night somewhere in the world. Jaden, it would be nice because we've seen it before for us to hit 6,000, but again, you don't always need the specific exact number. For example, you can see here, if you take a look at the top of the screen up in this range here, you can see, sorry, I don't know, maybe you guys, I hope you guys can see it, but generally speaking, that the low was 6,000 exactly. The reason why was because price was selling off into that even, but the order book was so heavy towards the buy side. There were so many orders that they would have had to clear through that they couldn't get the price lower. And again, it goes to show that big evens are big buy areas. So in this case, I'm not too worried, especially unless we go below that. But at the moment, it looks like a very clear bottom is signaled so far. We'll have to see if we get a nice breakout candle here over the next few minutes. It's looking like some volume is definitely coming in, but we need to see more. We need to see a good 1,000 or 2,000 Bitcoin buy order coming in. Ray Wall is doing the Bogdanov Babit. That's midnight in Australia. That's right. You guys are on the opposite time zone from us, on the east coast of the U.S. Sola, yeah, I think generally we're going to hold at 6,000, but we will have to see. We have to get some momentum here to the upside. I really close out this price action here before we can really make a move upwards. But yep, I don't know. I mean, we've got some time, guys. The descending line here that served as resistance. We obviously have to get past this, and it is getting lower and lower, so it's not going to be as difficult as before, but we do need to base out, find support, and then move higher. This is actually kind of reminiscent of what we saw back here at 7,000. Many people saw these first two green candles and instantly, oh, the first moment we see some green price action, bull market, here we come. You know, like it's just very urgent in a sell-off mode like this, that people are like, okay, it's time to go, let's go. And you know, when you have that kind of short-term thinking, then you can see these opportunities where you actually get wrecked and it doesn't happen as soon as possible, really just a few days ahead. If you can be patient and you know what's coming, you know, if it's holding at these support levels that we've seen in the past, then you're most likely going to see upside. You want to care about these cycles, guys. You want to care about more of the longer-term trends like this, you know. And I don't know if we're going to get that or not, but we'll have to see here. I think the key thing is just to, so long as we hold above 6,000, we'll be A-okay. From what I can tell. Cryptonomicon is starting to think these YouTubers don't. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, most people don't know what are going on. Most people don't know what's going on in any given market. You have to interpret it to the best of your degree. But yeah, I mean, I've been pretty accurate on making some calls. I called Bitcoin topping at 3,000, 5,000. I made a wrong call on Bitcoin at stopping out at 10K, and then it continued to rally all the way to 20K. Luckily, I didn't close all my positions. I had closed a small Bitcoin position, so I was enjoying the market fine. I was in altcoins heavy in December, called for that cycle. Many people did great on that. You know, in these downside plays, you have to be very cautious. The reason is because look at the differences in liquidity that you're dealing with, guys. It's very hard to predict these markets when you're dealing with, you know, for example, anytime back here, you know, around hundreds of thousands, if not millions, if you consider all the exchanges of Bitcoin being traded. And now you're seeing 1/5 or a quarter of that. You know, markets can be moved very easily. And again, that's been a concern that the SEC has brought up, is that we don't have enough liquidity. And that's one of their concerns for a Bitcoin ETF. Robin, that's good. UBT is the only green I have in the 24-hour. Yes, I like Unibright. I like that long-term look. We'll look back on this today and realize the opportunities that were there. Fear is just so darn crippling, though. It is sometimes. I mean, some people care about more of the short term. Some people care about the long term. I can tell you guys I've done much better playing more of the long-term cycles. I don't really care about short-term price action. You will get tossed around, eaten up. People who are diving in. I've seen some YouTubers talking about margin trading, for example. I definitely won't name names, but I don't think, you know, as much as I don't want that to be shut off from people, this is not the time to try to do margin trading when markets can be tipped over or tipped up to the upside very easily. Because your orders, if you're doing limit orders and you're adding liquidity to the order book, they can see it. And they know where their positions are, and they know where your positions are as well. And they love to take your money. They love for you to trade on high leverage, to take that risk, and then just to liquidate you, just like that. And it'll hit you when you don't expect it. And that's why I tell people, don't get so caught up in the short term. Play the cycles. And so long as we hold 6K, I think we've got an opportunity at that. Call Greenpeace. We need the whales. Cryptonomic. Yeah, no problem, man. I'm hoping that at least brought a sense of clarity to you. I don't try to act like a know-it-all or anything. Or so this is what you guys need to do, because I'm not a financial advisor in that sense. I'm one of many voices you guys should be listening to. Hopefully, I'm your favorite voice, though. That would be nice. Crypto, well, it depends on your time frame. I've been very, very green since early part of 2017. I was an early adopter of crypto. Now, if I would have bought in December, probably a different story. And don't mean that in a mean way, but FX, yes. I think honestly, when you're margin trading, especially if you're not doing it right, if you're not using, say, levels of 2 to 3, and you're not using proper stops, if you're just literally doing like 50x leverage and tossing money at something, that should be fun money. That should not be money that you, need, or your savings. You don't put your life savings on the flip of a coin. I will say that, but. Yeah, you got to be careful with leverage trading, guys. It's a tool. It can help you in a lot of ways, but you need to do it smart. Okay. Setbox, yeah, I'd agree. If we don't hold 6K, we could possibly very well see 5K. Because again, if we were to do 5K, that would be a 75% reduction, and if we got 4K, that's an 80% reduction from the highs. Nicholas Smith, I agree. We need to pray. Let's join together in hands and say, Lord Satoshi, blessed be these wonderful cryptocurrencies. Give us another day of decentralization, of peer-to-peer transactions. Grant us such beautiful exchange-traded funds, or ETPs, exchange-traded products. Allow the money of retail investors who can open up a Coinbase account, and also institutions, to have the freedom to invest in Bitcoin. Amen. There we go. Andy Raymond, Lord bless Lord Satoshi. Jaden, I'll probably be live streaming a little close towards like 11. And then I might try to get a video out today later on, but the thing is, there really isn't much to talk about outside of price action. And a lot of the other content that I'm focusing on, like research on upcoming projects, my institutional video for Crypto Uncovered, that takes time to make, and I'm working on that right now. So I'll be on for another good probably 15, 30 minutes. Bull run, I agree. We should also pray to the Lord Jesus. Papa bless. Nicholas Merton coin. I will not be creating a Nicholas Merton coin, but I will create a coin one day. It's not going to be an ICO or anything like that, but I think it'll be something that will do quite well. Oh, we should have asked in the prayer. We should have joined in arms and said, Lord Satoshi, show these bears the way. Show them that shorting is not in their favor. We should all be working towards the greater good of Bitcoin and getting adoption going. And please, will some people use it as actual cash? Amen. Let's see here. Nicholas, that'd be good if that was if that's real news. I haven't heard about that yet. But that's good if they aren't selling anymore. Just maybe we don't know when the SEC is going to announce it. There's no way of knowing. They will put it public on their site when it's confirmed. And the moment that does happen, it's going to be before the headlines get to it. That's the thing about it, guys, is news moves very quick in markets, and you will see it reflected in price. If the SEC were to approve a Bitcoin ETF, you are going to see a very, very high level of upside price action for Bitcoin. That's just going to probably be the reality. In that case, it's a positive set of news, because that's going to mean so much extra liquidity into the crypto space and people trading and investing. But we don't know when they're going to have that announcement done. It could be this month that they're approving it and working towards with VanEck to make sure it has a successful launch, or it could be, you know, as some people have called, for 5 years. I don't think you're going to see that. I think there's, I think you've got too much fundamental issues in traditional markets. Markets are, you know, if we take a look away from Bitcoin here, remember, we buy low, we sell high. In this case, you want to take a look at traditional markets. Take a good look at the NASDAQ, which is starting to, at least it looks like to me, start to top out. I think you could still have one last crazy shakeout run. You've had that before, usually with each bubble, the .com bubble. A lot of stock market bubbles. But I mean, you can take a look at all the major indexes. Take a look at the Dow Jones, testing very close to the 200-day. Hasn't been able to retest its highs. We take a look at the S&P 500, rolling over as well, close to the 200-day. Still hasn't made towards the highs. And then the other one I like to look at as well, the Russell 2000. Russell 2000 had a I don't know if the technical term for it, but it was a reverse engulfing candle where the sell side outpaced the upside. And it has made new highs, much like the NASDAQ, because these are the small caps. These are the high risk, mostly in most cases, high risk tech stocks, which are trading at ridiculously high PE ratios. So in this case, I think it's always important to take a look at traditional markets and to understand that, you know, the moment that traditional markets move down, people move towards hedging opportunities. They still want to make money. They want to hold the value that they have, look for stores of value. That's obviously commodities. We've been talking about, you know, commodities being oversold for the most part. We can go down and take a look at this wonderful chart here on this website here. I've been talking a lot about this. Commodities are at practically a 50-year low, almost 50-year low comparative to stocks. That is absolutely imperative to realize. So, you know, I think again, it's when you're taking a look at these grand scheme kind of things, it's not something that's going to happen in a day or a few hours. It's going to be over a few weeks, a few months, possibly a year. But I think it's going to be a whole combination of events that happen that's going to lead towards the creation and the urgency of a Bitcoin ETF. So let's go ahead here and take a look at the 5-minute. This 5-minute is definitely slowed down a tad bit, but I mean, guys, this is minuscule price action. We haven't seen any volume come in yet. Mr. Madden Nelson, I think it's awesome that in Canada they have like, I think it was Canopy Growth. I'm trying to remember the, I could probably look up Canopy and it's probably, yeah, Growth Corp. There's all these different cannabis stocks and everything. You look, I think everyone's got different opinions on the issue. I would not buy something when it's double topping right when the legislation is coming. This is exactly what happened with Bitcoin. You buy the hype, you sell the news. And you can see that reaction today as it's topping out here. And look at the increase in volume. When you usually have major increases in volume, it's usually not the time to get exuberant about it in that sense. But again, I don't want to give opinions on stocks, guys. It's your opinion. You know, you got to look into it, do your own research. But I don't like to buy high personally. So we'll have to see. I'm happy to hear that Canada's trying that. We'll see how it works out for them on a fundamental sense, like legalizing it and stuff. But Devang, yes, TA does matter, but it becomes much more relevant when you have liquid markets. We don't have that right now. So really what matters here is big evens, big even levels. As you can see, we held support around 7,000, a decent amount. We've held support at 6,000. We'll have to see if we hold it again at 6,000. Hardball, yes, I did see the Federal Reserve had launched cryptocurrency indexes. They have like on the Fed Stats website where you can see all the financial information that the Fed publishes. They've finally started tracking cryptocurrency prices, which is pretty cool. But it doesn't really mean that much. It doesn't mean they can trade it or anything. It just means they're keeping an eye on the price, and people can go look at that data for themselves. But if that's true, you might have U.S. markets. I know that there was, for example, talks. I don't mean to bring up politics or anything, but I think it's an interesting thing to definitely see, you know, comparative to traditional viewpoints in the party. You had Trump, for example, mentioning that they were going to, in the U.S., try to decriminalize on a federal scale cannabis. So I think that's a great step, and it'd be awesome if he did that. I think that would definitely shock a lot of his people who are opponents to him and stuff. I think that's a really good move. That would set up a much better framework in the sense of legalizing in other states, plus building, having publicly traded companies, because it wouldn't be a stage one, or sorry, yeah, I think it's stage one drug, or I can't remember the classified name right now. I don't know why, But anyways, yes, it would definitely be good in the sense of legal framework. It would provide a lot more comfort for businesses to invest and engage in it, so long as it was decriminalized. All right, guys, I wanna really issue one thing about people talking about futures contracts. I keep hearing this thing, and I think, you know, Thomas Lee is a great guy and stuff, you know, but you know, one thing that he kept mentioning, this is something that many people have been talking about, has been about futures contracts being the primary thing that's driving that price, and it could very well play a role. Not gonna deny that. I think Thomas Lee actually brought up one of the better points, that the expiration date could be what's causing it. Sometimes you get that when expiration date comes up close. Sometimes people obviously you can see in markets how sometimes price can have a correction due to that. But what we need to focus on here is that we are technically in a bear market right now. Okay, let's not play the blame game on, you know, banks and institutions. I think for example, we saw at the G20 summit, they didn't even spend time talking about cryptocurrencies. To them, they don't think it's going to go mainstream. They don't think there's a catalyst for it. And if anything, they see it as a digital asset market. And to be fair, what are people doing? They're trading and investing in them. They're not spending it. Let's be honest about it. So in that case, we need to be real about this. Why is price going down? Well, take a look at the weekly. It's not the futures contracts that are stealing liquidity out of this volume. No, it's that we're not having active investment come in. We're not having new money come in to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. We've been having a drop-off in liquidity in this market. Okay? It's not fashionable to buy something when it's not trending. That's the case. The futures contracts were an event of buy the hype and sell the news. They're not using, from what I know, still has not been any direct evidence of this. There is no direct evidence that futures contracts are being utilized to manipulate Bitcoin's price directly. Okay, there's nowhere near the trading volume that I would expect to see for that to be happening. Now, there's a nice amount of volume in futures. There's about $1 billion. It's like, I think either on a weekly, I think it was a weekly basis, we get about $1 billion in Bitcoin trading volume from futures. I might be wrong on that. It might be monthly, but you know, we're getting some increased volume in the futures contracts. But I wouldn't say that that's the mechanism that they're using to suppress price. You want to know what really moves price? Trading actual Bitcoin on a low volume exchange. And that's what whales can do. That's really what's happening right now, I think, guys. It's them using it. And with that, they're trading on margin. Because those margin indexes like BitMEX, they follow indexes of an index that compiles the price action of major exchanges like GDEX, exchanges like Bitstamp, Bitfinex, which are experiencing extremely low liquidity in that sense. And when you can trade at a 5 or 10x leverage, and then you sell a certain amount of Bitcoins, and you can make 10x, you know, on your money that you're borrowing and leveraging on the BitMEX exchange. Why not do it? You know, so long as people are getting away with it and it's lacking regulation. You know, that's, I think, what's happening right now. I'll tell you guys, the people who are generally buying futures contracts outside of Wall Street speculators are miners. They're using it kind of like farmers use futures contracts. Not too much. I really wouldn't, I can't buy into the whole idea that it's Wall Street manipulating us. As much as I'm against banks, guys, you guys know I don't like Wall Street. I don't like banks. I've spent 7 years in finance, learning about these markets and how they operate. And even though I think, Daniel, I don't know how to take that as a compliment or an insult if I'd be a believable vampire. You just see me like, I'd be like, you know, out of nowhere, you'll see like the sharpness of my teeth come out. But no, I mean, I think it's just something that we can't always pin the blame on someone else, guys. Or at least we need to be reasonable about it. Necrotol, I've talked about it a few times. I think at the moment we've probably seen the bottom, but we could very well still see a test at 6,000. We haven't tested it yet. So, you know, from this kind of reversal from the engulfing candle here, in this sense, it looks like we have generally bottomed, but I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked if we get lower. You know, I'm not trading in that time frame. You know, I'm waiting to see if we hold at 6,000. If we hold above 6,000, I think we're good to go. But this is the 5-minute chart. We have to give it some more time before we can get some real data to feel confident about claiming anything. Binary volume should show. You can click indicators here and type in VOL, and that should bring up volume. There you go. So I don't remember you. I'm not gonna say your name, but CB asked, if we go below 6K and even 5K, will it affect the time frame badly for the new all-time highs? Not exactly. I would say no matter if you get it, it's a matter of when we get the ETF announcement. My target is for anywhere from 40 to 50K if we get an ETF announcement this year. But if we don't get that in the next few months, it's probably not going to happen. My whole bet is hoping on an announcement of the ETF. If we don't get that, my bet's off in that sense. But I do assume that we're probably going to get at least some kind of announcement of an institutional Bitcoin ETF, and that will be enough. Crypto Knights, I bet they'll make leveraged ETFs when Bitcoin is less volatile, but I don't think you're going to have, and also as well, you're going to have, obviously, maybe an ETF to go short on Bitcoin. I mean, sometimes there's just simple services that allow you to go short on ETFs, but I don't know if they'll offer that. Maybe they'll offer just a simple contract as well that follows an index, and if Bitcoin goes down, the ETF goes up. I'm not sure. Depends on how the structure is and what the SEC and VanEck or whatever company is submitting the proposal work on. Binary, not a problem. Hope that helped you out. All right, everyone. I'm looking at the time here. We'll go ahead and take. I'll take 2 more questions, and then I'm gonna call it the end of the live stream, and then we'll. You guys are actually always welcome as well to hop in the Discord as well. But we're gonna take 2 more questions here. Big farts. That's funny. How will the Bitcoin ETF help if they aren't required to buy or sell Bitcoin? Well, here's a few things. One, you are going the proposal that is going to get passed if VanEck gets their ETF passed is fully backed by Bitcoin, and I think the SEC is going to expect that. These are not going to be paper ETFs or paper exchange traded projects, meaning that it's just following the index. You're going to have the actual asset backed up. Okay, so you're going to need a lot of stacking up of Bitcoin to formulate that ETF. Along with that as well, and we had that happen with the futures contracts as well. But along with that as well, when you have extra people trading it, just like in the futures contract, you can see higher levels of liquidity as well in traditional markets. The biggest concern, I think, really what you're going to get is more people finally feeling comfortable of getting off OTC exchanges and then trading on traditional exchanges. And the reason that's going to happen is because you're going to have a catalyst for a bull market. And when that bull market starts going, liquidity will hit onto the exchanges. It's more of, I think, more than anything, a hype factor that's going to really bring volume back. It's going to be when you have that ETF, when you have more institutions trading it. It's the same with the futures contracts, So, sorry, I don't really have a way of summarizing it that well, but it will bring liquidity to the market in that sense. Pedro, I know who you're talking about. You said if those experts are saying 5 years, it's one expert that I know who said 5 years. It's the longest time frame I've heard outside of it's never going to happen. And that was the lady who had created the Spider ETF for gold, GLD, that we always talk about. She thinks that there's much more, that there's not so much an urgency right now. And it's easy to say that because markets are doing quite well. Like stock markets are doing fine because you have a lot of stock buybacks fueling the rally. You have low interest rates. Understandable. In this environment, everything feels good. But she believes that the regulatory concerns are going to be solved 5 years down the road. Like we still need more liquidity. We need more of addressing towards the SEC's positions that they have. They listed it publicly. You can go on their, there's a document out there that they listed all their concerns. They're pretty transparent about things. As much as people like to rant on the SEC, I mean, they have some honest, genuine concerns. And you got to be patient and make sure that those concerns are met, because a lot of retail investors, for example, think about it this way, guys. If we're all reacting so crazy to a few $100s in price action, and we know that it's most likely whales manipulating it, do you want to bring do you think the SEC wants to bring a lot of retail investors into that kind of market where outside of the really low liquidity we have, we get these big spikes to the upside and to the downside from a few large scale investors who own a lot of Bitcoin? That doesn't seem very fair. And the SEC has a reputation to keep up. That's the one thing people need to understand. They need to keep a reputation. They have authority, but they need to keep a reputation to keep that authority. CB, I'd agree to it to some degree. I think you might. I don't think you're going to see 2,000 to 3,000. That's a little too low for me. But it might happen. Again, I was wrong. I thought we'd go to bottom at 7K, but we've gotten a little bit lower. All right, we'll take one last question. Livonia says, I'm from the future, and let me tell you guys, things are going to get ridiculous. I hope that's ridiculously good, Livonia. All right. Yeah, I think, Vivek, you need some more liquidity. Ernest, that's a good point. That's what I was referring to, that each share of the VanEck ETF is going to be around $200,000. So unless you and your family want to pitch in together and buy one share, it's probably better to just open up a Coinbase account. It's going to be for institutions, definitely. Jaden, if I knew, I would definitely try my best. Let's see here. Rocky G wants me to do my Obama impression right towards the close of the live stream. And at the moment, we can't really decipher whether or not we're holding at 6K. But, if we can stop the sell side action here, hold around 6,100, we might have a chance at it. But we've seen in the past that if we can't get bipartisan support to find support at 6,000, we might have to come back down and collapse at that level. We need to find support here. Okay, I can't do my Obama impression. My voice, my throat's not sore, but it's not feeling up to par today. That's probably. You want me to do a Kermit voice? I can't really do Kermit. What other impersonations can I do? I can do a lot of political impersonations, but Anthony, no. MT Gox whales. Someone said earlier that they're not selling, so I don't think it's MT Gox whales. They're usually pretty transparent about it. All right, one last question, guys. I'll do maybe some impersonations tonight. I'll have to get my practice in. A firm foundation. I mean, some people are going to buy the ETF. The thing is, you're either buying the ETF, a futures contract, or you're buying on exchange. You're buying physical Bitcoin. It's still, you're not, those buyers aren't bringing direct liquidity into the market, but they are buying an ETF that's backed by the Bitcoin. So when you're talking about the actual traditional exchanges, for the actual price to go up, you do need people trading the underlying asset physically on exchanges like GDAX, exchanges like Coinbase. But I'm saying with the announcement of an ETF, when you have more people staking in some kind of asset, for example, the futures contracts, for example, for Bitcoin, there's excitement because that means that the market itself is maturing. You're probably going to get more liquidity, and the standard exchanges like GDAX and Coinbase, they don't have direct ties in that sense. The only buying that you actually get with an ETF product is when the ETF product needs to swallow up a good amount of Bitcoin actually acquired off these exchanges, physically hold and store it, and then people can trade the ETF product. But it doesn't mean that it's going to strip liquidity from the market. And in fact, it's going to add trading volume to crypto markets in general. It's not always the physical ownership of the good. You can take it, for example, like Robinhood. They've been trading Bitcoin and stuff. What really moves the price is really what happens on physical exchanges, but there will be more active trading as more people are holding and buying it in various different ways. It's just generally what we see with markets. Alrighty, so one last question here. Thank you very much, Tommy. I appreciate it. Nicholas, I haven't tried much of the index funds and stuff, and I always like to kind of look into what each project that I'm holding. But for a general person, yeah, maybe an index fund would work. Shawaza, I like that. You should make a caffeinated data dash tea for bull runs and non-caffeinated data dash herbal tea for bear markets. Ironically enough, I'm drinking herbal non-caffeinated tea. I gave up coffee a while ago, so that's ironic that you mentioned that on the bear market, and we are in a bear market now. All right. Vinnick, no, I cannot answer 20 more questions. All right, guys. Well. Jared asked a big thing. So even if we get the ETF, do we still need a big headline? Yeah, I think we need actual real use case of blockchain. I think we're going to get enterprise adoption first, and then I think you're going to see the real use case, which is peer-to-peer digital currency, really come to the forefront when we have a currency crisis. And I hope to be ready at that time because I want to build a currency for that. So we will have to see. I think we're gonna have a currency crisis. This is what's really gonna lead towards real mainstream cryptocurrency use and the actual value increase that we have yet to see for cryptocurrencies. So anyways, everyone, that's it for the live stream. I've talked long enough. You guys have probably heard me ramble on enough. But before you leave, if you guys want to continue the conversation, if you guys aren't at work right now, or if you are at work, you're a dirty dog, you've been watching the live stream, either way, it's understandable. Definitely hop into the Discord. You guys can go ahead and type in !Discord into chat, and the Nightbot will give you guys a direct link to the Data Dash Discord. If you're not a member already, join in our community, guys. We welcome you with open arms. It's completely free and open to participate in. You have to give it a few seconds, possibly, before you can actually engage in voice chat. It's just a safety precaution for spam. But definitely hop in there, guys. Chat away with people. Have a great time, and I will see you guys soon on the Data Dash channel. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll talk to you all soon.